Welcome to this episode of the She Is Extraordinary podcast. I am here with a beautiful friend and client of mine, Talita Minnie. She is the co-founder of Global Biohackers, one of the co-founders. She is a nutrigenomics educator. But you know what? More importantly than anything, this is a woman whose heart is huge and whose mission is to serve other people. And I'm so excited to share this conversation with you, Talita. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Judy. So lovely to be on here. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you for taking me up on it. Now, Talita is on the other side of the world. I'm recording this on Friday afternoon, my time. It is bright and early, as in 6 a.m. Australia time. So again, thank you, Talita, for waking up so early for this. So for those ladies that don't know you, can you give them a thumbnail sketch of who Talita Minnie is, besides this extraordinary woman I love?
Well, Judy, gosh, thank you for the opportunity. I know getting up early is definitely not my favorite thing. So I actually think that I'm supposed to be here today because I usually don't have this time. Well, I do, but not do podcasting. So I'm a mum of 3 boys. My boys are 11 to 5, in that beautiful age group that you just run, and always on adventures. My husband and I are both South African. So we actually live in Australia, but we both are from South Africa. And for me, the journey to where I am today has been, I guess, a journey like anyone's. You know, if we look back on people's stories, they always interest me. And I guess my own story, I've learned to embrace my own story, which sometimes we don't do. Like we ignore it because we think that our stories are just mediocre compared to everyone else's stories. And over the last few years, especially, God has really just highlighted how each story is unique and my story counts. So for me, a bit of my background is I was homeschooled, and I grew up in a small town, and then we moved to a property. And I could always say that I was probably one of the most social butterflies of the school, or of homeschooling. I started homeschooling in year 3, but I was always interested in people, and you know, just I always wanted people around me. But at school, when it comes to education, it was something that I struggled in. It was something that really wasn't my strength. And so I always just thought that maybe I'm not as smart as everyone else. Or maybe the learning difficulties that I do have, like, you know, concentration, focus, those were things that were going to depict the life that I have, right? And at the age of 18, all my friends were finishing school already, and I was still busy. And I made a decision to stop school 6 months before I was finished and go find a job because I wanted to start living life. And by that time, I had made the decision and looked, and my best friend was a paramedic. So she suggested that I actually apply and become a communicator for the ambulance with 000 calls, which is like 911 calls back in the US. And it was a great job. It was a very high stress job. It challenged me in ways that I've never been challenged before. It was a great paying job. I was able to buy my first car brand new at the age of 18, which is not a lot of people could say that. But God had plans.
Amen. Amen. Can we just pause for one moment? I really want to lay on that word you used, decision.
Yeah.
Like you decided, you know, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I am going to, you know, quit school and I'm going to start working. And you also made a decision that you were going to lean into that big responsibility in that job and, you know, invest in a new car. Like your whole life was, and all of our lives is made by the decisions that we decide to take. So I would just love to lay it on that for a second, because those decisions matter.
Yeah.
And they
do.
shape our lives on our journey. So, I don't know, any additional comments you have on that? I really think that is so important, because so often we can say, oh, I'm dealt with circumstances. Oh, darn, this is my life, And so anyway, yeah, anything that you have to say on that one, on decisions? I'm just all hot on how important that is to know that God is in charge of our lives, but he gives us free will.
Yeah. I think from a young age, my grandfather always described me as a live wire. And, when you've got toddlers and children yourself, that you can pick them if they're very headstrong. When they make a decision, they make a decision. But all through my life, as I was growing up, I grew up in a Christian home. So I had Christ in my life since I was 4. I accepted him into my life. But he'd been working on me and honing and training me. But one thing that I think that has always stuck by me, but also as I grew older, I realized that I saw people around me not making decisions. and it's, at the same time, I had other people who were like always making decisions and prestiging and doing all these things. But I was very determined, no matter what happened to me, that I'll figure a way out and I'll make a decision to move forward, whatever that may be at the time. And so I think, I had actually made a decision like 3 years prior to me purchasing a brand new car that I was going to get a brand new car as my first car. Just things that just was that like, oh my goodness, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And now, many years later, I realize that it has shaped the direction of my life. And sometimes I look at other people's lives and they have their own journey to go on and their own blessings that have been in their life and their own joy, but also their challenges. And I've recognized a lot of people struggle with making decisions, with deciding to do something and doing it, actually, not just thinking about it and wishing it, but actually deciding to move forward. That's a huge thing that people struggle with.
Yeah. And that's exactly because you are that way, that you are decisive. And because I know you, I know that you move forward despite having all the answers figured out and despite having this perfect plan and, dot the I's, cross the T's, that you are a doer. Like you make a decision and you do it. And so that is why you've been so successful in your business right now. So I would love if you could share, please, about how you got started doing what you're doing. Tell us a little bit about what you are doing and that whole story, that whole unfolding that God was so interweaved in.
I think sometimes people don't realize that every part of their life is actually a door that's been closed or opened. And sometimes the hardships in our lives is a door. It's actually God opening a new door to a different direction and different season of life. And so God did that for me. At the age of 20, I got married with my beautiful husband, and we didn't decide to have children straight away, but God did. And again, it was beyond our circumstances, and I had I had tonsillitis that I don't even have tonsils. I had tonsillitis over my wedding, and God just gave me penicillin. And I mean, that was a medication. But anyway, beside that point, it changed the direction of my journey. And so here I had a newborn baby, and oh my goodness, it was a shock. My son didn't sleep for the first 2-3 years of his life. It was up every hour.
Wow.
And it was like brand new parenting on steroids. Like, we had this child who was very busy through the day and then just didn't sleep at night. And we were really worn down. And at the time, my husband did an apprenticeship, so he did his traineeship through marriage with children. And our second son was born. And I was always, at first, I kind of had that woe, poor me kind of situation where I don't think I thought anything. I just didn't know how to. I was basically survival. It was basically trying to survive life with this new position that I've been thrown into. And it was when my second son was born that I realized that I need to start taking control again and on purpose decisions. And we needed some income extra because we were going through this traineeship. And so I stepped up and started doing direct selling with a company before the company I'm with now. And it had been a journey. It had been teaching me skills that, I've always loved sales. I worked in sales quite a lot, even after QAS and before QAS, which is the ambulance service. I had worked in sales. And so I loved working with people. I loved that relationship. And so I figured, well, that's the one thing I do know that comes naturally. But it's also something that I've had skills or, experience in. Mm-hmm. Maybe I should try it. And I grew a lot in that period. I grew a network of people that has been, so valuable, so highly valuable in my industry I'm in right now. I grew my personal development, more confidence in who I am. And through that journey, God kept on opening doors, but also shutting doors. And it was about, I remember now, about 7 years ago, my son developed seizures. And so he actually had been struggling a lot with learning and concentrating at school. At home, sleep was a real big challenge for him. But when seizures came into our life, by that time, I had decided to take control of my family. We were eating a very clean diet. I had shifted all preservatives out of our diet, all sugars. I was making everything from scratch, spending hours in the kitchen. Wow. And still, with all that focus on nutrition and health, my son was still going to a direction that I didn't even realize was a thing until it happened. And then I'm like, oh my goodness, what is going on with life? Yeah. And that just pivoted everything. Like, it really pulled me up saying, right, we need to seriously look at what's going on with him. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if want to talk here, but I can continue with the story if you like.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say this. I'm sure the ladies listening, they can relate to your situation because it wasn't a child issue. Maybe it was another relational issue, or it was something bad at work, or some personal health issue. We all have had those challenges that really it becomes a crossroads where we say, okay, am I going to be the victim? Or am I going to be the victor in Christ? So yes, please do continue your story.
Yeah, no, I will. I'd love to. At first it was a shock, and at first you kind of suddenly think, oh my goodness, what's going on? Why is God doing this to us and all this kind of things? But, God has always, he says it time and time again in the Bible that everything is for good, everything is for his purpose and for, he cares for us and he looks after us. And even the pain and the hardship is a part of us taking up the cross for him, but also for him to use that for his purpose. And so when I started looking into how to support him, I was really lucky that my son's seizures were only at night, which is different to daytime seizures, very different. Like we could really try and see if we could help him. And we did a lot of therapies. I was leaning towards trying to find a root cause for him rather than just jumping to medication at the time, because that has its own set of challenges. A lot of those medications are narcotics or very, very, very strong medications. And he was such a small boy. Like, I just didn't want to just start there without looking at why it was happening. And so we did a lot of, testing, a lot of looking into what was going on. Naturopaths, we had neurotherapy, which is like a brainwave therapy. And all these things were kind of opening doors. And then Talita, with her personality, is always doing stuff with people and loving people. And it was actually because I was so curious about people and just who they were and their stories that a friend of mine posted something on Facebook about oxidative stress. And at the time, even with all the research that I was doing, I had not come across the word oxidative stress before. And I was like, Jill, what is this oxidative stress thing you're talking about? And, it was this week, I actually found the first message that she sent me after we had this conversation. And this is over like 5 years ago now. And I remember her saying, hey, Talita, this is my new business. Because she was a stay-at-home mum. Well, she only started being stay-at-home mum when she started her kids' journey. But she was actually a school principal and a teacher. So definitely not someone who just jumped straight at business and online and, offline business or direct sales or anything like that, or network marketing. And I at the time didn't know much about it. So I'm like, all right, tell me more. What are you talking about? And
because you were curious.
I'm so curious.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that curiosity, God used it, right? Like he uses the things that we have to show us the answers. And sometimes we don't know where the answers are going to come from. But if you live in such a small space where you don't realize around you what's going on, or who, what's going on in other people's lives and how they're going, and you sometimes miss things and blessings that God can bring into your life through caring for other people and just, having that relationship with people, right?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Wow. What you just said is if the ladies hear nothing other than that, that is such a ginormous life lesson, that if we are so self-focused and especially victim mentality and feeling woe is me, we're going to miss the blessing that is other people and how God works through those other people. And he specifically puts these people in our lives so that, we interconnect and so that we impact each other's lives. So, wow, that's really good. All right. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. Keep going.
No, I feel like I'm waffling on anyway, but it's, if I look back on my journey, and this is the way God's teaching me, like, Talita, just stop and embrace your story, because it's so easy that I can not share this story and just live life and continue forward without stopping and reflecting and sharing that part, the struggles. People can easily miss that part, and they look at my life right now and they go, oh my goodness, I can never be like you. I don't know how to do what you do. This is really hard. Like, what's a different? They don't know the struggles as much as what I do unless I share it.
Right.
And it's not about my struggles, because ultimately I've learned to embrace those, but it's actually about every person's struggles. What is in their life right now that they can either have to embrace and be open to new doors or open to this new season, or have they actually embraced their past as a way to victory and conquering rather than a way to just surviving. And for me, asking my friend that question opened a door that has forever changed my life. My friend, she came over. I remember we had two little, I had my baby on my lap. He was a month old, my third son, and she had her little baby on her lap, and it was like 2 months old, or no, it was about 4 months old at the time. And so here she was trying to explain something that she was really excited about, but just with all her passion, she shared how each of our cells have incredible abilities to switch on, gene expressions that can start creating antioxidants in the body, and the body can start healing the cells because it has, its own healing pathways that are working. And the only way they activate is through food. And so I was sitting there thinking, because I love food and I love nutrition. So it was like, I understand the nutrition part, but it was like a big light bulb moment, because God's always been teaching me, about nutrition, and I've been learning a lot about nutrition and gut health and all these kinds of things. But it was like, of course he put something in our bodies to look after us, right? Like it was like a massive thing where I was looking for answers. I mean, on the external side, but God had already put something internally that could be switched on. And when it turns on, it produces massive amounts of antioxidants. It's actually the pathway that is your survival genes. It's responsible for detoxing and for carcinogens and for healing and for inflammation. But this pathway actually switches off by the age of 20. And they find that babies now, when they test the umbilical cords of babies, there's over 100 chemicals already detected in the umbilical cord.
Oh,
So,
wow.
of course, our children have high levels of stress and rust in their body and free radical damage. So, it kind of just made sense that my son may have had a lot of free radicals in his cells, and they were just bombarding his cells, and his cells just weren't functioning properly. So when my friend mentioned and showed me the information, everyone takes information and the story and they just go back and reread and relook. But for me, it was definitely the vision of, oh my goodness, this can not only help my family, but it can actually help my friends who were struggling. Because I had lots of friends with autoimmune disorders and a lot of health issues. And these were young mums, like we were all in our 20s and everyone was struggling. And I'm like, God, why is people at this age struggling with their health? Because seriously, it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better.
Yeah.
And it kind of just made sense. Everyone has been riddled by oxidative stress. And so turning this pathway on, you can do it naturally. And that's what excited me. It was a product that was well developed. It had incredible research, over 27 peer-reviewed studies on PubMed by American Heart Association, Skin Cancer Foundation. It had the research, it had the science, which I loved.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, it had the ability and the possibility for me as a mum from home, using it on my family, to then be able to share it. And that peer sharing is actually where I started to create a business from it. Because for me, I saw the vision for it. I saw what it could do for my family. And then we started the experiences. And that was a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember the first time you told me about the dramatic change that you saw in your son. I mean, you already said how, wow, this conversation changed the trajectory of my life. Um, it brought this business to you. And more importantly than anything was the transformation in health of your son. So I would just love to understand, because to me, I'll be honest, and I think you know this, I'm not really a sciencey person. Like I just, whatever. But when I hear about my son or my husband or my whatever was this, and now they are this, I mean, to me, you can't argue with that. So I would so appreciate if you would be able to share that story.
Well, so I guess hearing the background in that process, I can also share that, us as a family was not functioning well, right? Our family was not thriving. We just were struggling with life. And as parents, stress was a massive thing. Like, it impacted us. And we were young parents trying to figure life out on top of, making our mark in life. And so when I saw these products, I'm like, all right, I need to, skepticism does come in, but science, there's science and there's science, right? And so when you want to really know if something works, you just have to try it yourself, right? That's the difference between just watching someone else's journey and then experiencing it for yourself. Mm-hmm. So I just tried the products, and I didn't try them myself. I put them on with my husband.
Because was he a happy guinea pig? Was he happy to be your guinea pig on this? Okay.
Yes, because at the time we were trying magnesium and zinc and lots of different things to help him, because sleep was a major challenge for him. And so with less sleep, he actually struggled a lot more with, just keeping up with the day, just reacting to situations in a calmer way, and
sure,
anxiety, brain fog, lots of different things. And so for me, it was like, honey, you are so well in tune with your body that this may be something that you can tell me if this actually works. Because at the time I had just had a baby and I was trying to figure out my body again. And so it was better that he tried it than I would have tried it. And so he tried it, and his body went through an adjustment phase. But by the first month, he came back saying, honey, it feels like my brain fog has lifted. And I just slept through the night, and it was a calm, deep sleep. And it was those small changes in him that just convinced me that this has got to be more than just a story. this has got to be just more than a gimmick. And the ingredients in there were so simple. They were things that you would make in a curry, or, they are just so little amounts of ingredients. And it wasn't supplementation. It was actually looking at activating those cellular pathways. So flipping a switch in the body was the concept. When you flip that switch, your body can then start creating what it needs to create. And our diets are not enough and sufficient enough to actually create those things. So, for this gene pathway, it's called NRF2, it actually needs 2 cups of broccoli sprouts a day to switch on this pathway. So, hands up, how many people have had broccoli sprouts every day of their life to turn this pathway on? It's not possible to have perfect diet. And even with the perfect diet, it's not as powerful these days as what it used to be. And so I then saw the vision, and I took the big leap because I wanted to get my son in it. And I also wanted to help other people with this journey. And at that time, my friend was like, Talita, if you're going to share it with people, you can either just send them to me, or you can make some money back and pay for your own product, which at the time was like, yes, please, because we needed it. We were in a position where it was really expensive to live life. And my son had been in a private school. Second one was just about to go to private school. And so I'm like, any way that I can afford a way for my family to be healthier, but also to thrive. And I made a decision to share with people. And that decision has been a pivoting point in my life that 4 years later, I look back with so much gratefulness, because God brought in situations in my life that was a challenge. And let's face it, we all have them, but it is what you do with that challenge that really depicts the next part of your adventure or your journey with God. And so at the time, we were praying for direction. Our family needed to thrive, and we wanted more freedom. I wanted my husband to be more present and not working so hard, or at least working hard in the things that he wanted to do rather than what he had to do. And everything just kind of from there to now has gone so quickly. But the personal growth, the journey of my son's health, and just, as a company, they brought in a product that activated his mitochondria and just different pathways. And I now tell people, look, there's a lot of science involved, but we're going to look at what can it do for you. More energy, better sleep, more motivation, more focus, less inflammation, less aches and pains. Longevity, looking after your cells is so, so important. When those pathways are on, your cells can actually function well. And then on top of that, the company has great, gut probiotics and all those things as well, which is super important. So for me, it's become a way to touch the lives of other people in their health, because we know that when you feel better, you are better.
Yeah.
And for my family, it has been that our parenting has shifted and changed. Our whole family dynamic has changed. We've had times where good times and challenging times, but I can tell you now that we have more good times than challenging times with just a dynamic in our family.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Hallelujah. Yeah, and that's a huge thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me just ask this. Right before we hopped on, I alluded to the fact that it's like 6 a.m. your time now. And last night was a late night because your business is booming right now. Hallelujah. This is all to God's glory. And so years ago, like when you quit school and started that job with the ambulance service company, did you have entrepreneurship kind of in your radar at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. My dad has always been an entrepreneur, and he's always taken me along to his business meetings. And I've always like, how can I make money? Like, how, what can I do that will, and not just the money side, it was the time freedom. And so any opportunity that came my way, I learned to be quite critical on it, like, to look it through really well, because, we all make decisions and do things. But at the time before this company, I was working for a direct selling company, which was basically getting paid for the sales that I made. And I had some amazing months, where I was, $4,000 or $5,000 paychecks. But then I had some months where if I didn't sell anything, I wouldn't earn income. And so I knew going forward that I didn't want that pay model, because to me that meant not being able to have an income that was consistent enough. So I would have to go find a job, right? And so the thought of a job at the time with little children was like, oh my goodness, that's just extra stress in my life. So when this came across my path and I saw that the potential income, because the company trades on NASDAQ and all their finances are clear, they actually gave an average of each rank in the company. And the averages were really good. Not even far up into the company, I could be earning a proper full-time income that could support my family. And I looked around me and no one had heard of oxidative stress. And no one had seen the potential of what this could be yet. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, this is an opportunity that may never come again. So yeah, I literally rode that wave, and it's been 4 years now that we've been riding that wave. I hit one of the leadership ranks in the first 2 months of the company. And then I've been building my business since, with strength to strength. And I can honestly say it's not just about the business and the money. It's really the personal growth, who I've become, where my family's going. We have gone from just surviving in our household, trying to just make ends meet, to finish a full renovation in this house and have a vision to go traveling full time with our boys next year. That's not everyone's dream, but that's ours. And the freedom to do that and actually still earn enough income and more to go traveling and enjoy life without the stress of having to find work on the road or, for the next 2-3 years, that would be amazing, right? That would be time spent with my children. And the possibility and the opportunity it's given to the people that I've shared it with. Like, I have a team now that I support right around the world. I'm so excited. I work with people from New Zealand, from the Netherlands, from the US. I've got customers right around the world, and I sit at home and do it. So for me, it was a God thing. It really was. And I always loved expanding my horizons, expanding my network, getting to know more people. But what I've learned in this industry is that it's not just someone like me who's an extrovert who can do this really well. The lady who is my support and also she's a dear friend, she's very introverted. And she builds a business just as strong as mine. It's even stronger than mine. And she does it all online. And so she doesn't even have to get out there and be the face of the show. And that to me is just a reflection of God's grace upon my life. And just, when you hear of an opportunity where no one else has heard of it, if you go ask your friends, have you heard of oxidative stress? And they say no, that there's something that you need to do about it.
Yeah. And you're on the cusp of that. You're on the cusp of that, the cutting edge of it. Well, I love your Facebook cover quote. If you want something you never had, you've got to do something you've never done. And that's what entrepreneurship is, because even, let's just take your company. Okay. I don't even know how many people doing it, but you know what? For each of those individuals, in order to build a life and business that matters and honors the Lord, you're building something from nothing. Yeah. Right. And as I work with coaches and creatives and all of it, and even professionals like lawyers and chiropractors, all that, you're creating something from nothing. And what allows you to win, obviously it's God's grace and his direction, but it's also you stepping in, taking action, and the passion with which you speak about the impact you're making on people's lives and the impact you've seen it in your own life. I believe, coupled with how you're so great to talk with, and you're such a people lover. I mean, you're a natural. So that is what has allowed you to, I just want to make sure everybody catches this. Home renovation, going to be traveling. You bought a brand new, what is it called? The other day,
caravan.
you brought a brand new caravan. this is good stuff. And it's because you're doing the hard work, you're putting in the time, but yet you've designed it. And this opportunity that God put in front of you was such that it doesn't have to consume your life, that your priorities remain.
Absolutely. Yep. If anyone allows whatever they are doing to control their life, and they lose sight of I guess the important things, then ultimately that's not going to achieve anything. It's really even in a season and a phase where you have to work hard. Like, I mean, I work hard. It's not like I sit at home and do nothing. Right now, my vision for my family and future is so big that some things I've got to let go. Some perfections, or I'm not on top of my washing right now because it's not my focus right now. But my family's fed. I'm there for them 100%. But at the same time, we know that in the next year, I can be way more present with them because my husband will be home full time as we travel. Then, we can share and be, that's the one thing that I'm grateful for, is a partner who supports me in this journey. Many women don't have that. They don't have that partner who believes in them and says, you've got this, look how amazing you're doing. I know you can do this. Those words mean a lot to me, coming from him. But it's the potential of what it can do for other people that has driven me. Like, if I know that other families are struggling with their finances right now, how many people would love $500 a month? I mean, that's huge, right? But when it starts getting to 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 to 4,000 a month, that's life changing. Like, that can literally spin a family from just making ends meet to start saving and start going on holidays, start paying the bills on time rather than just back paying it. And that to me is probably today a bigger driver almost, and I would say almost because it's kind of level, than the products and how they work and how amazing they are. I mean, there's nothing on the market right now that can reduce oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days, guaranteed in their blood cells. I mean, that's in itself incredible. There's nothing for the last 15 years that we've been around. No other product has been able to achieve that. So for me to have that and then the opportunity to share that with people, I just love sharing and love supporting my team. And
it's a win-win-win. You're helping your client, you're helping your team, you're helping yourself, you're helping your family. That's just so neat. Well, I want to two questions left. Okay. One is, you just said you have this big dream. Like, your life has come so far, even in the past 4 years, but you've got this big dream. And what I find is that a lot of times people have dreams, but they really don't believe it's going to happen. Like, they have more doubt than faith that it can really happen. So what do you think that is inside you? I mean, this is kind of a crazy question, but what is it about you that you have this big dream and you're believing, you have faith that it's actually going to happen?
Well, there's a great quote that I heard about a year ago, and it kind of depicts me as a person. And look, and I'll say the quote and then I'll explain why. It says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. Right?
Yep.
And some things come naturally to me. So, for instance, talking to people, I love talking to people. It comes naturally. I've had to build my skills on talking to people because there are different ways you can do it. There's a wrong way and there's a right way. But there are other things that I never thought I could do, right? So leading a huge team all around the world of professional people, not just stay-at-home mums, that's not something I thought I could do. I've got internal medicine doctors, I have nurses, I've got specialists, and I've got stay-at-home mums, I've got business owners, I've got very successful business owners who are a part of my team. And I have people like myself, mums who just want to stay home with their children more, or women who want to stay home one day when they have children. You know, I've got this beautiful young generation coming through my teams, and then I've got mums who just want to change the direction of their families' lives, and leading them, helping them see the vision of what could potentially be. I've learned people don't know how to dream, right? People don't know how to actually embrace that dream again, because as we grow up, we let go of those because life is stressful, things are full on. But it's literally that you have to make a decision. Are you going to work hard? It's a faith decision, right? It's, am I going to keep doing this even if I can't see the result right now? But I trust the system. I trust the process. I trust that God has good for my life ahead of me. And
Amen.
I trust that whatever I do right now, He has put in my life for a reason. So, you know, for people listening to this podcast, if this interests you, like, you know, are you going to just ignore it, or is this a prompt to do something about it? Whether it's for your health, whether it's for your wealth, whether it's to create an income or to look at that as an opportunity. It's the same as what I had when I first saw that post and first saw my friend sharing. I could have just ignored it. I really could have. It was easy to do. It was just a Facebook post about oxidative stress. But I made a decision, and that's where God led me to the vision of what could be. And He planted a seed in me that will last a long time, because I'm just so excited.
And you're being obedient to walk into that plan that He laid out for you. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. That is just such good stuff. All right. Well, we're going to end it this way. This is called the She is Extraordinary podcast. And I always love to ask my guests to share about an extraordinary woman in your life and to tell us why she's extraordinary.
Back again. Sorry,
Oh, okay. I didn't know what was going on there. Okay.
I just disappeared for a minute. Okay, so who is extraordinary in my life?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there's a few women that have been pivotal in my life. Growing up, I had my parents had friends who had a lady. She had just boys, and so she invested a lot of her time in me because, you know, when you've got just boys and you have friends that has a daughter, you know, and you've always wanted a daughter, and she was a homeschooling mum at the time as well, but she was a marine biologist, and to me that was just like fascinating that someone with such an incredible journey took on her cross, and I feel like it was a cross to homeschool 3 boys, very rowdy boys.
Yeah.
But she impacted my life in so many ways in realizing the potential and the uniqueness of who I was. My mum, you know, your mum always has a way of influencing you to be more, and I was blessed with a mum who actually spoke beautiful words over my life and encouraged me in the direction. And I definitely got her stubbornness from her. I think I was definitely like, you know, the go get him, like just get it done. But yeah, and my grandmother, of course, my grandmothers, even though I grew up in a different country to them, and they still had a massive impact in my life. And so I would say, I would really highlight the fact that I always admired her because she invested into our lives, even though we were overseas. And the little things she did and all the skills she had. She's such a multi-talented woman, you know. She was a teacher, a home ec teacher, an incredible florist and baker, and created a lot of things, but also sold a lot of things for her family. So to make a lot of income through the years, you know, she made preserves and fruits and did a lot of things to sell to make an income. She did different jobs growing up, and I just think, as women, you know, we have seasons, and every season opens up new doors, and that's what we're going. Like, you know, as women, we have a responsibility to help our family thrive. It doesn't mean that we have to be the main breadwinner, but it does mean that we can help be a partner with our husband and move forward in one direction with one goal. And whatever that may be look like, you have to and purposely do that. You can't just sit on the sideline while, you know, you've got to work together in a partnership.
Right, right. Oh my gosh, I love that. And that what you just said at the end there took me back to Genesis. We are our husband's helpmeet. People say helpmate. It's actually help meet. And I don't even know exactly what that means, except that we are to be as one in that common goal. So that is such great stuff. Thank you so much, Talita, for being here. Now, before we leave, where can the ladies hook up with you? How can they find you?
Judy, I have a beautiful little what we call a digital business card. And I can give that to you to post in the thread. But honestly, look me up on Facebook or Instagram as Talita Mini. So Mini like Minnie Mouse. And I'm sure you'll have my name in the podcast somewhere. Yep. But yeah, look me up on Facebook and Instagram and let me know that you've come from the podcast. I'd love to know that that's where you've connected me from. Send me a message, and I'd love to just chat with you and encourage you. If you've enjoyed me sharing my story, I'd love to hear your story too, which is what drives me, is hearing people's stories and just help them and encourage them and listen to them. Yeah.
I love it. And that's what life is. I mean, there was a time when I was all about me in my 20s. I don't know about anybody else out there, but the older I get, the less I am important to me, and the more other people are so much more important. And you embody that, Talita. That's one of the 1,000 reasons why I love you so much. So thank you so much again, Talita, for being here. Of such a great episode. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Judy, and love talking to you always.
All right. Well, thank you again. And ladies, if you have listened and have enjoyed this episode, please take a moment and leave a rating and a review, and be sure to hit the subscribe button because you don't want to miss any other episodes. So once again, thank you for being here, and we will see you next time.